will start off by telling you a joke. But before that, let me first do this. Let me first read the verse. Bhagavad Gita 9.5. Let me tell you a joke. First, I'll tell the joke in Hindi for those of you who understand Hindi. You know, I'm from India, and Hindi is the national language of India. I was born and I grew up in India. So let me just tell it quickly in Hindi. And then after I've read the verse and its translation, I will tell the joke again in English. Do. तो फर्स्ट इन हिंदी. एक बार एक द्वितीय कक्षा का बच्चा जो है, जो सेकंड क्लास का बच्चा जो है, वह अपने स्कूल में गया था. तो शिक्षक ने उससे पूछा, नहीं, शिक्षक ने सारे कक्षा से पूछा कि भगवान कहाँ रहते हैं. तो कुछ बच्चों ने कहा, एक बच्चे ने कहा कि भगवान मंदिर में रहते हैं, दूसरे बच्चे ने कहा कि भगवान हृदय में रहते हैं, तीसरे बच्चे ने कहा कि भगवान जो हैं वो कण कण में हैं, और एक बच्चे ने कहा कि भगवान सर्वत्र हैं. एक बच्चे से जब पूछा गया कि भगवान कहाँ पर रहते हैं, तो उस बच्चे ने उत्तर दिया, भगवान तो हमारे घर के बाथरूम में रहते हैं, वॉशरूम में रहते हैं. तो सब कोई बड़े चकित रह गए, खास करके जो शिक्षक थे वो तो हक्के बक्के रह गए कि ये क्या हो गया. तो उन्होंने पूछा, बेटा आपने ऐसे क्यों कहा कि भगवान आपके बाथरूम में रहते हैं, आपके वॉशरूम में रहते हैं. तो बच्चे ने कहा, रोज सवेरे जब पापा को ऑफिस जाने में देरी होती है और वो बाथरूम जाना चाहते हैं, तो मम्मी अंदर रहती है, अंदर से बाथरूम लॉक रहता है, तो पापा कहते हैं, हे भगवान, अभी भी तुम अंदर बाथरूम में हो. तो इस प्रकार से उस बच्चे की समझ यह हो गई, छोटा सा बच्चा था, उसकी समझ हो गई कि हे भगवान कहा ना, तो शायद भगवान बाथरूम में रहते हैं. All right, so that was my joke in Hindi. Now let me come to the verse, and I will try to repeat the same joke in English for those of us who do not understand Hindi so much. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, from Bhagavad Gita as it is. So the chapter is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text number 5. This is a very interesting text, very, very intriguing text. Anyways, the verse is in Sanskrit. Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogamayeshwaram bhutabhrinna cha bhutastho mamatma bhutabhavana. Translation given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The translation is, and yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. So the joke now. A second grader boy had gone to school, and the teacher asked the class at school, do you know where God lives? So one student answered that God lives in the church. Another said that God lives in the temple. Another said that God lives in the sky. Someone said God lives in heaven. One boy said God lives in my bathroom, in my washroom. So the teacher was taken aback, and the teacher asked, why do you say so? And the boy said, every morning when my father is in a rush to go to the office, he tries to go into the washroom and the door is locked from inside because my mother is inside, and my dad goes, oh my God, you are still in there. So the boy felt that since the dad said, oh my God, you are still in there, so he was addressing God. So that is how his conclusion was, that God lives in the washroom. So this is a second grader joke. So it is quite applicable to a lot of people who try to understand philosophy too. They try to understand things as they perceive it. There are a few people, I would say there's quite a lot of people who are actually open to understanding different perspectives. And because of their openness, uh, they have a whole new world of understanding waiting to accept them, just waiting to encourage them, a whole new world of understanding. So we would need a lot of that in today's verse. Now, today's verse is, although we actually this is what we do. We try to understand the Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, or we typically in a class just take one verse. Actually, it is a conversation, and we can see that today's verse is connected to uh, the previous verse, verse number 4, because that is where this entire topic, the uh, the conversation is. It begins with verse number 4, and this is Krishna speaking. So in that verse, Krishna says, um, and actually, we should kind of read the translation of both the verses together to understand what Krishna is saying in verse number 5. Where is it coming from? Is it a standalone verse, or does it refer to a topic, a subject matter that is being discussed previously too? So obviously, this is in connection with verse number 4. So I'll just read the translation. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So all beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. This is today's verse. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. And so, in the previous verse, the idea that everything comes from Krishna is being put forth by Krishna. He says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. So Krishna says, Maya tatam, Maya means by me. So this is verse number 4. Very briefly, we will just see what Krishna is saying there, what are certain premises that he puts forth in that verse. And one of those premises would be addressed in verse number 5, that is today's verse. Please let me know if I'm getting too ahead of myself or if I'm too fast. Please let me know that. So verse number 4, if you have the Gita, Bhagavad Gita as it is open in front of you, then please go to the previous verse wherein Krishna says, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. So Maya, by me, tatam, pervaded. This word tatam has been used at least in 3 or 4 places in the Bhagavad Gita, and everywhere tatam means to pervade or pervaded. So by me is pervaded, idam, this, sarvam, all this. Jagat, here Jagat would mean the universe. So Krishna is saying, by me, everything is pervaded. So what is being pervaded here? Krishna is saying, Jagat. Now, similarly, this idea of things being pervaded has been there in the Bhagavad Gita in many places. You may, if you you may not remember it directly right now, but in the second chapter, I think verse number 17, Krishna states about how the body is pervaded, and there he says, he uses the word sarvam again, but because he's in the second chapter, verse 11 through 30, Krishna is delineating the differences between the soul and the body. Therefore, this idea of pervasion or being spread all over is in relationship to the body. Although, again, And the line that is used is Sarvam idam tatam. Tatam means pervaded. Idam means this. Sarva, all this, all over. There the idea is who is pervading all over all of this? Yena. So that which is being described to be the soul is addressed by the word yena. So the soul pervades by its energy through consciousness. The soul pervades the entire body. So yena sarvam idam tatam. Just as Krishna is saying here, Maya sarvam idam tatam. Yeah, Maya tatam idam sarvam is just the rearrangement of words. The soul, and there is a connection between whatever I am saying, there will be a connection. So first, the soul is pervading the entire body, which means each one of you who's sitting there and hearing me speak, including myself, each one of us, the soul is pervading our body. In other words, since we are so much in bodily consciousness, we speak of the soul as a third entity, as an outside entity. The real way of speech would be, I am pervading my body completely. You are pervading your body. You, another person who's a listener here, is pervading your body. So that is the conception of how everything is being pervaded by one entity or moiety. This is in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, in another chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I think it would be the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is again speaking about himself, but in the third person. He says, Yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvam idam tatam. This is the second part of the verse. The complete verse is that Purusha sa parah partha bhaktya labhyastvananya. So by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service, one can achieve the goal of life. That is what the first verse says. So who is that? Who's that Supreme Personality of Godhead? Yasyanta sthani bhutani. Yasyanta sthani bhutani. So all the living entities, this entire creation, all the living entities that exist in this entire creation, and the entire creation himself. Yasyanta bhutani. So the word bhuta is referred in Sanskrit grammar to the entire creation, like all the elements of creation. They are called as bhuta. All the like earth, water, fire, air, ether, they are addressed as bhuta also. So what is being addressed gives you an idea of what bhuta means in Sanskrit. Although right now, when I'm saying bhuta means this, bhuta means that, it may seem that how do we distinguish? Well, by the grammar and the objective of what is being spoken. By that it is understood what is being said. Bhuta, the word comes from bhava, which basically means existence, which basically means that which is born. So since all the elements are born, they are created by the Supreme Lord, therefore the elements are addressed as bhuta. Similarly, the living entity is also addressed as bhuta. The living entity is also called as bhuta. And for those of you who are from a Hindi background, you know bhuta, preta. So the living entities without bodies are also addressed as bhuta. Those who have subtle bodies but no gross bodies are also called as bhuta. Bhuta also refers to the past, like bhutakal. So the reason I'm explaining this is in verse number in chapter 8, and now we also see in chapter 9, bhutani, the word is being used. In chapter 9, bhutani, that word is used, or bhuta bhavana, That word is bhuta is used in terms of living entities. And maya tatam idam jagat avyak matsthani sarva bhutani, verse number 4. So all living entities are within me. In chapter 8, verse 22, where Krishna says, Yasyantasthani bhutani. Here, bhutani refers to the entire material cosmos, consisting of the moving and non-moving elements of the cosmos. The moving are the living entities, and the non-moving are the material elements. So again there, Krishna in third person is saying, Yena sarvam idam tatam yasyanta bhutani. So Yena sarvam idam tatam has been used in chapter 8, it has been used in chapter 2. The same word Yena in chapter, Yena means by such and such person, Yena. So if I have to say that Balaram Prasad Prabhu asked me to give this presentation, so you can ask, Yena, by whom were you asked? And I would say Balaram Prasad Prabhu. So Yena it refers to the thing or the person that is being addressed. So when we say Yena sarvam idam tatam, by whom everything is being pervaded, all of this is being pervaded. So Yena sarvam idam tatam, and this idea in chapter 8, and Yena sarvam idam tatam that we refer to 2.17 chapter 2, 17th verse, they speak of different persons. One speaks about the soul pervading the entire body through its consciousness. The second speaks of chapter 8 speaks about the Supreme Lord pervading the entire cosmos through his consciousness, through his energies. That is why Gita, when we discuss, it is very very exhilarating. What makes it very more interesting is when we try to understand the Sanskrit that is there. Now, this is not the only place that such references will be there. There are other places also where references are there, like there is a reference of this in the 18th chapter 2. And in the 18th chapter, again, the word that is used is, the line that is used is, Yena sarvam idam tatam, where it says, Yatha pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam. So according to how the living entities work, then swakarmana tam abhyarchya. So according to the kind of work that the living entity does, one can worship the Supreme Lord who is pervading the entire universe. So here, Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam, the Supreme Lord is addressed to as the person who's worshipped by the fruits of the offerings and that one offers to the Supreme Lord, by the results of the offerings by the result of the work that one offers to the Supreme Lord. So again, the Supreme Lord is being spoken as the third person. So Yena Sarvam Idam Tatam. And there are three places. In one place, it refers to the soul pervading the living and the soul pervading the body. In the 8th chapter, it refers to the Supreme Lord who pervades the entire cosmos. And in the 18th chapter, it refers to the Supreme Lord who pervades the entire cosmos, but specifically that Supreme Lord who is the recipient of the results of one's work. This Supreme Lord who pervades the entire cosmos in terms of either the living entity, because the living entity is part and parcel of God. So the sum total of all the living entities' consciousness is just a fragmental expansion of the Supreme Lord's supreme consciousness. Let me repeat that again. The sum total of all the living entities, the sum total of the consciousness of all the living entities in creation both the material and the spiritual creation, the sum total of all the consciousness of all the living entities in the entire creation is just a fragmental, or is just a small portion, an insignificant portion of the supreme consciousness of the Lord. It is just an expansion of that. So even the consciousness that pervades the entire body, which is a consciousness of the soul, the living entity, even that is actually referring to the fragmental portion of the Lord's consciousness. So in this way, we see that the supreme consciousness is being referred to in the Bhagavad Gita in many places. However, in one place, it is referred to as the fragment, as the uh, the possession, or the quality of the living entity who's part and parcel of God. And the other two places, it has been referred to as the Supreme Lord, uh, however, in the third person. To make matters perfectly clear, in verse number 4, Krishna says in first person, he says Maya. And therefore, this verse is very, very important, verse number 4, because Krishna directly says Maya. This is in first person. He says, he doesn't speak in third person, that Supreme Lord who's pervading. He says, I pervade. I am pervading the entire cosmos. So we may want to note this point, because here Krishna is speaking about himself in first person. It is Krishna saying that I, which basically means Krishna who is standing in front of Arjuna. In other places, it could be Krishna as an expansion, as the Paramatma, as the Purusha avatars, as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, or as Karanodakshai Vishnu. It could be all of those references. Here in verse number 4, when Krishna says, Maya tatamidam sarvam, by me, the entire Jagat, the entire cosmos is being pervaded. Here it is Krishna as the Parthasarathi, the chariot driver, of Arjuna. For devotees, there's not much difference. Wherever Krishna says, we understand it as Krishna Shyamasundar. Here specifically, yes, some technicalities specifically. Krishna personally, in his own words, through his own lotus mouth, says, I pervade. However, he speaks in, it is the predicate form, not the subject, but the predicate, by me. So the subject is the entire verse. This entire cosmos is pervaded by me. That is how Krishna is making the statement. Even though it is by me, still it is in first person. So, well, he makes two claims in verse number 4. And in verse number 4 itself, he kind of contradicts one claim. And then in verse number 5, he contradicts the second claim. So the two claims in verse number 4 are Matsthani Sarvabhutani, all living entities exist within me, and No Chaham Teshu Avasthitaha. This is where he contradicts that. However, the first, I'm very, very sorry, very, very sorry, please. The first thing that he says, his claim is Maya Tatam Idam Sarvam. I pervade the entire universe, which basically means that I am in the entire universe. And the second claim is Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, all the living entities are within me. And then in verse number 4, he contradicts the first claim, where he says, Sarvam Jagat Idam Tatam. I pervade the entire universe, and he says, Na Chaham Teshu Avasthita. However, I am not within the universe. So if I am pervading the entire universe, and then he says, I am not within that. So that seems to be contradictory. So that is the first contradiction. And I'm not going to go into that because That is not the subject of today's verse. I just wanted to first of all establish how these two verses are being spoken by Krishna in the first person, and therefore uh, it has special significance. Um, so he contradicting himself as I'm not in them, which I'm not in the entire universe, um, is interesting. Then in today's verse, which is basically the continuation. It is like Krishna is saying, "Na chaham teshu avasthita na chamatstani bhutani." It's like this. But since we read it as two different verses, therefore it seems that these are two different instances. So no, actually, after Krishna has said, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani, that is one part. So he speaks that in one breath. Then in the next breath he speaks, Nachamatstani bhutani, Nachaham teshvavasthita, Nachamatstani bhutani, pashyame yogam aishwaram. So this is what Krishna speaks in his next breath. And then in the third breath, he says, Bhuta bhrinnacha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavana. So that is his third breath. I'm just trying to make it a little more dramatic when I say that it does not mean that this is how Krishna actually spoke. He could have spoken the entire thing in one single breath. Just so that we can see, we can correlate. So we will not discuss the first contradiction, which is not exactly a contradiction. We will discuss the second contradiction, and we'll try and understand how it is not a contradiction. So the second contradiction is Krishna says Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. That was his claim. That Matsthani, all the living entities are in me. And then he says Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. Bhutani refers to living entities. Matsthani means within me. Nacha means certainly not. So certainly not, definitely not, the living entities are in me. That is how Krishna is saying the living entities are not in me. So yet everything that is created does not rest in me. So Srila Prabhupada is taking both the claims and addressing it here, which is correct. It is not incorrect. He is addressing both the claims as a single claim, which is what Krishna is also doing, and he's saying that. We are just breaking down the words, and therefore technically we are saying that Krishna says Matsthani Sarva and says Nacha Matsthani Sarva. Matsthani Sarva Bhutani, Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. So Nacha Matsthani, within me, none of this rests, or they're not in me, Krishna says. So Bhutani, previously in the previous verse, all living entities rest in me. Here, everything that is created does not rest in me. So we can see how the word Bhutani in these two verses has been given its two different meanings. One is Sarva Bhutani. If you have the word to word meaning Gita in front of you, if it is open in front of you, you can see that Sarva Bhutani is being translated as all living entities, and here Sarva Bhutani, Nachamatstani Bhutani, Bhutani is translated as all creation. So we can see both the arthas, both the meanings come out according to the context that is being spoken in. Okay, so that having been said, let us see. Srila Prabhupada, let us try and elaborate on this a little more. Oh my God, I have just 10 more minutes. Srila Prabhupada says that when we speak of the Supreme Lord, generally the idea that God is great brings this image in mind that he can bear the load of all that exists. He is like this very, very powerful person who can carry a heavy weight on himself. And Prabhupada says that this idea comes from somehow or the other this conception that God is supposed to be our load-bearing coolie or load-bearing person, on whose back you can put all of your stress and anxieties and load and needs and everything. And Prabhupada gives the example of somebody called as Atlas. I think he is from the Greek stories, who holds the earth on his back. And Krishna, he says that is not true, because Krishna doesn't have to do that. He says that, Prabhupada says that just simply by Krishna's will, everything is done. Just for example, all the planets and the different universes with all their planetary systems, everything that you can see and that which is beyond the scope of present day telescopes, long distance telescopes, which is beyond uh, the that which can be seen. All of that uh, is being born by Krishna just by his will, just by his desire. He doesn't have to do anything physical to do that, to bear all of that weight. He doesn't have to kind of hold it on his back or on his hands. In fact, even the idea, the Vedic understanding of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, uh, manifesting the 14 planetary systems. The 14 planetary systems are manifested in the stalk of the lotus flower that sprouts from his navel. So even that Krishna is maintaining just by, the energy that sprouts from his navel. That's it. That's or Garbhodakshay Vishnu is doing that. That is how powerful Krishna is. Or Karanadakshay Vishnu, he all the universes, they enter his bodily pores, and he doesn't have to really exert. He is simply in yoga nidra. He is kind of lying down, and he does not even notice what is happening. All these universes that after universal, the complete devastation, they enter his pores. Uh, so that is a power of Krishna. Just by his will, by his desire, things happen. Another thing that is being mentioned here is the word Aishwarya Yoga. And Prabhupada, in his purport, he says that it is like Krishna saying, Krishna doing a magic, doing magic or showing a trick or kind of revealing his opulence. And basically, that is what Aishwarya Yoga is. Yogam, Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram. This is the inconceivable revelation of Krishna's majesticity, his majesty, Krishna's majesty, rather. I don't think so. Majesticity is a word. This is a revelation of Krishna's majesty, how majestic Krishna is, and it is also inconceivable. Hence, the word Aishwarya is also used. See, yoga refers to something very, very divine. It comes from yuj dhatu, which means union also, but also it refers to divine. It refers to that which is ephemeral, that which is non-material. One of the understandings of yoga, according to the Nirukti, would be this. So Aishwarya refers to inconceivable. Although Aishwarya also means opulence, it also means inconceivable opulences. When you reveal your Aishwarya, when you reveal your opulence, it means that the common people do not have that facility, and therefore it becomes inconceivable, or that which cannot be conceived by the common people, that could not be achieved or understood by the common people. Hence, inconceivable opulences, or Prabhupada says, inconceivable wonderful pastimes are displayed by Krishna through his energy. He quotes a verse from the Shrutis, Yujjate nena durgateshu karyeshu. Basically, it means inconceivable and completely mind-boggling activities of the Supreme Lord are revealed Yujjate and innumerable, unlimited, anena, Yujjate, are just happening by his will. Yujjate, here Yujjate means it just happens by his desire. It just manifests by his desire. So when Krishna wants to do something, he simply just desires. That's it. Well, then we see that in Govardhan pastime, he actually lifted Giriraj Govardhan. So his will manifests in two ways. His will manifests in prakat and aprakat. His will manifests in the revealed form and that which is not revealed, or in the manifest form or the unmanifest form, both. So when he reveals his will, his potency, those are called as revealed pastimes, prakat lila. And that which is not revealed and which is innumerable, inexhaustible, unlimited pastimes, those are called as aprakat lila. Pastimes which will be revealed when we are qualified enough to have that revelation. So that is how Srila Prabhupada, he explains the word yogam aishwaram, and he explains the idea of how Krishna sustains everything, sustains his creation. Now we'll come to the contradiction and we'll try to understand the contradiction. I think I will be going a little beyond my time, so maybe there won't be time for question answers because it would be, I think it would be very, very interesting. How is it that Krishna is he says that everything is in me, the living entities are in me, and then he says that they are not in me, and then he says that I pervade everything, and then he says that everything that is created does not rest in me. We'll take the help of logic here because Krishna is speaking something very logical. Very briefly, I would just use one example. For example, let us, we all know the ocean has waves and the ocean is made up of water. So water has waves. Yes, the ocean has waves in them and the ocean has water. So the statement that there is a statement that the waves in the water and water in the waves. Both statements are correct. There is waves in the water and there is water in the waves. Similarly, the world is in the Paramatma and Paramatma, the world is in the Lord and the Lord is in the world. Similar statements. There's waves in the water and there's water in the waves. Okay. So the world is in the God, the entire world is in God, and God is in the entire world. Now, what would be the contradiction? The contradiction would be waves are not in water and water are not in waves. Okay, so how do we address this contradiction? Now let us see. The ocean is simply a body of water. So we kind of just address the ocean as a body of water. We just address it as water body. So waves in the ocean exist because there is water there. The waves exist, the wind can, by its strength, the wind can move water from one place to another, and that is what creates waves. We know that. Deep down in the ocean, there are no waves because the wind does not reach till there. So let us take the wind out of this context. We're just going to speak of waves and water. So the waves are made up of water. The waves are created in the water It is water that is sustaining the waves. If there was no water, then the waves would not form there. And the waves ultimately merge in the water too. Let me again repeat this. The waves are created in the water. The waves sustain, or they're supported by the water, and the waves merge in the water too. They again go back into the water. So water is the basis of the waves. Similarly, the creation comes into being because of the support of the Paramatma, because of the support of Bhagavan. The creation is sustained by the Lord's will, and the creation ends, which is called as pralaya or devastation, and everything goes into the Lord. The Lord is just the support. He is also the creative force, and He is the sustaining force, and in devastation, everything again rests in Him. So the logic is similar in both the examples. Now let us take up the contradiction. Waves are not in water and water is not in the waves. This is the contradiction. Now, can there be such contradiction? Yes, because that is what logic helps you do. Waves are not in water. How can we logically say that is correct? Because then we can logically say that the Lord is not in the creation. Is that right? Or creation is not in the Lord. We can make that statement that the waves are not in the water. So how do we say that the waves are not in the water? That is, the creation is not in the Lord. Waves are actually made up of water. There's nothing else but water in the waves. So actually, when we say waves in the water, it is based on logic. It is water in the water. Just two different forms of water, but water in the water. So water being common, it is only water existing everywhere. So there's nothing but water existing everywhere. Hence, water in the water, so waves are out of the picture now. Therefore, waves are not in the water, it is water in the water. Now the statement, waves are not in the water, can be proven to be correct based on logic. Because waves are nothing but water, so everything is just water. Similarly, the creation is not in the Lord when we make that statement, which is what is the contradiction here, because the creation is nothing but the Lord. Everything after devastation goes into the Lord, and only the Lord exists, and the creation comes from the Lord. So the creation is nothing but the Lord. So we can say the creation is just another form of the Lord in the Lord. It is just the Lord everywhere. It is just Krishna everywhere. And hence, based on logic, the universe is not in Krishna, which is what is being stated by Krishna. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. So this is logic, because everything that is created is nothing but me. It is I in another form, Krishna is saying. And hence there is no differentiation. Therefore, the contradiction is not a contradiction. It is actually true. And now the other contradiction. Water is not in the waves. Again, the logic is the waves are nothing but water. So there is water in water. Therefore, there is water existing everywhere. So the Lord is not in the world. The Lord is distinct from the world, because the world is nothing but Krishna. So before creation and after devastation, it is but Krishna. And therefore, when the Lord says that the world rests on me and still I am not in the world, and then he says it does not rest in me, there is no contradiction, because what is being stated is that the manifestation of the Lord in the various forms, whether it is part and parcel of as the living entities, or whether it is energy as material energy, everything is an expansion of Krishna. Therefore, it is Krishna, and therefore everything is Krishna. And hence, Krishna is not contradicting himself here when he says that all that is created does not rest in me. There is another way that this logic can also, that this so-called contradiction can be addressed. I don't have the time for that. What I want to address is that this logic is conceived only when we use our intelligence. Intelligence is also uh, properly used by the grace of God, which is a fact. I know the eureka moments is just inspiration from Paramatma. Eureka! I found the answer. So eureka! I understand it now. Is by the grace of God, because sometimes, despite so many ways a thing is explained, we don't understand it. So grace is there, but our door to receive that grace is closed. So we have to, as of yet, we have not opened that door to receive the grace, and hence we don't understand. So intelligence or the good use of intelligence is actually a blessing. We should count those blessings. It is a blessing from Krishna. It is the grace, Krishna's grace. Now, Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram. Grace is inconceivable. You cannot conceive how grace works. You cannot conceive how grace functions. Grace can be understood as mercy, or it can be understood as love, or a combination of both. In Krishna consciousness, we conceive of it as combination of both, mercy and love. So grace means there's mercy, which means, yeah, Krishna is a support, so we need his mercy. Without him, how can anything exist? At the same time, Krishna and we are bound by this relationship of love. So there has to be love too, loving devotional service. Okay, so grace. So Yogam Aishwaram is, when we speak of Yogam Aishwaram, what we are trying to address is this inconceivable mercy and love that Krishna bestows on us. So Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram is not Krishna trying to show Arjuna, hey Arjun. He's not trying to show off in front of Arjun. He's not trying to show off in front of all of us. Arjun is his devotee. Krishna does not need to show off to anyone. What to speak of Arjun is devotee. Even though Arjun is a little bewildered right now, he's still Krishna's devotee. So there's no need for Krishna to show off in front of Arjuna. So definitely Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram is not showing off. What is it? It is Krishna's heart of love that is addressing Arjuna. Hey Arjun, kindly see my grace, understand my grace, receive my grace, receive my blessings. You receive my blessings, and these contradictions will no longer seem contradictions. You will be able to see beyond what you are seeing right now. You will be able to perceive beyond what you are perceiving right now. Hence, that perception is addressed by Krishna in the previous chapter, where he says, he speaks about these Mahatmas, Bahuna Janmanam Ante Jnanamam Mam Prapadyate. This understanding of grace cannot be bought at Costco's or at any mall. It cannot be taken off the shelf of a dad or mom, or even from the shelf of the spiritual master. You walk in and take a book of his or her shelf, the spiritual master or guru. But grace cannot be taken like that. It is not something that can be understood through the physical realm. Grace is only understood in completeness. It can be understood in bits, but in completeness, it is understood when the soul in its full glory is in the presence of God, serving Krishna, serving the Lord in its full glory, which means in complete self-realization. So when we speak of Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate, it also is addressed towards those who are practicing Bhakti Yoga. Specifically, it speaks about the Gyan Marg, but it also speaks about the practitioners, the sadhakas, those who are practicing devotional service right now. Because when practicing in the sadhana stage, in the practice stage, there is as much need of grace. And this grace uh, is very much available in the form of good intelligence. That intelligence which makes us see every opportunity to serve Krishna. Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram also refers to the Supreme Lord's ability to be in everything, to be the cause of everything, to be connected to everything and still not be attached to it. And the Shrutis speak about it. The Shrutis say there's no question of attachment for Krishna because Krishna was never attached. So if someone is never attached, there's no question of either attachment or detachment. So Krishna, when you speak that Krishna is detached, it doesn't mean that he was first attached and then he became detached, or since the beginning he was detached. When you speak of Krishna as detached, it is simply stating the fact that Krishna was never attached. So if there was no attachment ever, there's a question of detachment. One is already detached, and that is Krishna's Aishwarya. And the reason is when we, in the embodied state, we create something. Like in the embodied state, we create our existence. We are born as a baby, then we grow, then we have, we reproduce, and then we die. So this is because the soul exists within matter and gives life to matter to transform. So when the soul, the bewildered soul does it, the soul becomes attached to the creation, that which has been created. Oh, I achieved these marks. Oh, I am, a senior person here. Oh, I am a mom and dad. Oh, I am a child. Oh, I am a junior person here. Oh, I have, this has happened to me. Oh, that has happened to me. This is because we do become attached to the creation that has come by our existence, which is this body, which basically means this life that we have. So it is normal to get attached to that which you have created, to that which you are lending support to. However, it may be normal for us to get attached. It is normal for Krishna not to be attached. So Krishna has this entire creation coming from him. Krishna has so many living entities expanding from him. Krishna has so many different expansions, so many different avatars, so many different forms expanding from him. He never feels, Krishna never has any false ego. This is mine, he doesn't have. And if that is the case, then why does Krishna say Mamatma, which seems there is possessive sense here, Mamatma, Bhuta Bhavana. Actually, I don't have time to address that. So I'll just stick to Aishwarya Yoga. So this is Krishna's Aishwarya Yoga also. And that for us could be the takeaway home message. It could be the conclusion of this discussion. It could be the underlying message for us. This, what is the underlying message for us? That we must not become attached to the creation because our creator is not attached to the creation. And the reason our creator is not attached to the creation is because the creator does not have the false ego. We should also not have the false ego. And only the liberated souls are able to understand this. And it is therefore only the liberated souls that gain entry into Krishna's pastimes, whether it is manifest or unmanifest, whether it is Prakat Leela or Aprakat Leela. Now in Prakat Leela, those there may be others who may also be given entry. However, in Aprakat Leela, only the self-realized souls who are free of all false ego, there's no tinge of false ego, they are completely purified. They get entrance into that spiritual realm of pure devotional service. So for us, that is the takeaway home message, or that is the if we practice our devotional service without the idea that I am this, I am that, this creation is mine. At least when we interact with each other, we may have to do so. And that at this point I could have addressed when I would have addressed Mamatma Bhuta Bhavana when Krishna says that, but I don't have the time. Please forgive me, I don't have the time for that. However, And there is a way to do it. There is, and practice of devotional service, chanting of Hare Krishna is meant to bring us to that platform. When we interact, we may interact as a father, a mother, a child, husband, wife. When we interact internally, just as internally the ocean deep down is completely peaceful, internally we should be totally peaceful. We should never think that we are the husband, we are the wife, we are a child, we are a senior devotee, we are a junior devotee. Internally we should just have one conception, fixed, atal, immovable conception. I am the servant of Krishna always. Jiva Krishna Das E Vishwas. Internally. Externally, we have to perform whatever role has been given to us. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.